everybody, Thrill Billy here. Back on the Project Ranger engine swap here. Got our Blue Ranger here. Give $600 for this thing. I'm gonna swap the engine out of it and put it in my 98 Ford Ranger Splash. This is a 2000 3-liter automatic. At the time of filming this, it's November and a little bit of a warm streak we've got here. So I want to try to get as much of this done as I can while it's still warm. My father-in-law's shop here is not heated, so it's not insulated either. It's going to get chilly in here, and actually this coming weekend is going to get down into the 20s, so I'm not really looking forward to that. So I'm going to try to get as much done as I can before this weekend. Everything in this engine bay is still intact. I haven't touched anything in the engine bay yet except disconnecting the battery, and all the body panels are off and out of the way. What I want to do is get the cooling system drained, get the radiator out, start disconnecting some things so that we can pull this engine out. What I'm going to do is cut the radiator core support in the front of the truck and just pull the engine and transmission just straight out the front. I got a crane lift here. I'll show that to you in a minute, but it'll only go so high, so don't know how we're going to get this out with the core support in the way. When we go to putting the engine in my other Ranger, that's going to be a different story. We'll jump off that bridge when we get there because I'm not exactly sure how we're going to approach that yet. I'm going to use this engine, but probably keep the transmission that I've got in my other truck and just drop the engine in and bolt it in instead of trying to do the whole transmission through the tunnel and all that kind of stuff. We'll see how that goes, not sure. But for now, let's get started on taking this cooling system apart and start working on getting this engine out of Dory. Let's get to it. Got the radiator out, got all the coolant obviously drained, starting to make our disconnections on the engine. Went ahead and got pretty much everything off the radiator core support, so we're getting ready to cut that out. Disconnecting only the wires that I absolutely have to. Here's where we are. Got rid of the coolant reservoirs, got rid of the radiator. See how I got all that out of the way. Serpentine belts out of the way, obviously the battery's out, and I'm working on just disconnecting what little wiring that I have to. I'm wanting to pull all of the wiring off with the engine. I was able to get a lot of the heater controls wiring out of the way, which got to this headlight. There's a little section that goes over the radiator core support. I wanted that out of the way because I didn't want to cut through wires. Here's the harness that we took off there. So that's got blower motor resistor, AC condenser or high pressure switch connection, light sockets, and just random stuff on that fender. So here's the other side of the headlight. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to keep the positive and negative battery cable in the vehicle. I could just unbolt them from the block and from the starter down there. We hit our exhaust manifolds down there, bolts with some knocker loose spray, and we're going to try to get these exhaust manifolds off. I don't think I'm going to be able to get one of the bolts out. I'm going to have to take the oxygen sensor off of the driver's side in order to get that off. But we're getting really close to getting everything just kind of unbuttoned from this engine. Next thing we're going to do is just try to zip this core support off so that when we go to pull this thing, we can just pull it straight out. at a point where I got the air conditioner compressor out. I'm gonna replace this water pump on here. In order to get to this water pump back behind this bracket, I gotta take this whole like bracket off. Looks like there's a bolt back here, one right here, and then there's the positive and negative battery cable bolted to that nut right there, and then there's a ground to the block. This comes up on top and brings a wire harness to the air conditioner compressor, and then this wire leads up to the back of the alternator. So I got a alternator wire to the positive, the negative goes to the block and also goes down back up and contains the air conditioner compressor and the back of this battery, or the alternator. So the exhaust manifold bolts are not moving. I'm gonna have to get like a pneumatic air gun on there or something and just really crankleize on those. And the process, probably snap them in half or get the torch out and turn them into a liquid. Either way, the exhaust manifolds bolts are going to be highly problematic. So I'm going to get this battery cables out of here, tucked out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and remove the engine mount nuts here. Just go ahead and get them out of the way, and then find that cross member on the transmission and see if I can get some work done on that. So the motor mount bolts are off there. Those are 18mm bolt nuts. You can see I've got the exhaust cut off there. I tried to put some wrenches on that bolt there and it just wasn't budging. We'll probably have to hit it with some heat and an impact gun when we get out. All this bracketry is out now. There was a big bracket here. 3 bolts hold that on the cylinder head, and then there's two bolts here that not only hold the bracket on, but they also hold the harness strap for the battery stuff. And then there's a negative battery cable bolts to this one here. This wiring harness unplugs here and routes in underneath to the fuse box. So I gotta make sure I take that off to the side. This main computer harness here comes out. I'll set that off to the side. I think the only thing that's really holding this engine in right now is the transmission cooler lines. They're not really bolted anywhere else here, but they're just kind of in the way. So the transmission cooler line, and then this fuel line coupling. I gotta get a special tool to get that off. That's on order, should be in tomorrow. I got a new water pump to put on it, so I'll do that when I get the engine out. So the transmission is just being held up by the jack right now. The cross member was taken off, and there's the exhaust that I cut. Here's the exhaust. So, and here's the parts pile. So a lot of this stuff is gonna go up on Marketplace and go for sale. So I've got a hood, fenders, 2 doors. Well, that's gonna be it for me tonight. It's late. Appreciate my father-in-law helping me out and investing some time in here with me and getting this stuff done. So we're really close to pulling this engine. Learned a lot along the way, so that when we work on my other one, hopefully it'll go just as smooth and hopefully quicker. But that's it for me tonight. Back at the shop up here at my father-in-law's place. I work on trying to get the engine removed from Dory today. And I knew the cold weather was coming, but I wasn't expecting the white stuff. And they were calling for some flurries, but that quickly escalated. Great. Let's get in the shop and see how cold it is in there and see how much of a miserable day we'll have trying to work on the Rangers. What I'd like to do today, and it all depends on how cold I get, I'd like to get this one at least out today and then work on getting Nemo into the garage here and start disconnecting some stuff. It can drive under its own power, so we'll try to put some jacks underneath this thing and try to wheel it out of the way once we get the engine out of here. And then I guess once we get the truck out, I really don't need it anymore. We can just set it aside and just pull parts off of it as we need it. All right, before I get to disconnecting this fuel line, I want to make sure the fuel pressure is released from the system. And on these 3.0s, the fuel rail is right here. This is where the fuel comes in. It's a little Schrader valve right there. And I just put a little screwdriver down in there, depress the valve, and released any pressure. There wasn't any pressure in it, which is fine. But normally you'd hear a little hiss and then some gas would come out. So that tells me that the fuel pressure has been relieved on this system. And then now I can go to take this thing off. So bought this kit off of Amazon. It's a, of course I opened it upside down, but it's a line disconnect kit, service kit. It's got all kinds of different options in there. And I'm mad at myself for opening it upside down, so now I gotta fix it. All right, now that I gotta put it back together, I think I could use one of these. I don't know what size yet, but this will just clamp on the outside of it, and then that this little ridge right here will go in and spread out some kind of a spring clip or something inside there. It's really dirty right now. Let me just try to clean that up, but I'll try to get you in here to see what I'm doing. All right, there's a retainer clip. You just pop off the line, which wasn't hard to do. I got in there and cleaned it up a little bit. I'm gonna take this line tool and open it, stick it over the big silver part. And then ideally, I should just be able to shove it that direction and then pull this out at the same time. Push that way and then pull.
Disappointed!
I don't know what it's supposed to release.
One eternity later.
All right, so I just figured it out. Took a little bit of time there. When I got it on, I felt it click in, but I was pulling and yanking and I couldn't get it to release. This lip on there is what it was catching on, so it wouldn't allow me to pull it out. So when I clicked it forward, I then removed this cap and then just simply pulled that off. So I guess the point is not to have this on there while you're pulling it back. Put it on, make it click, hold it in the click position and try to back this off without making it click back. And then once it's done, you can just pull it right out. Gas did come out of it, so be careful with that. If you guys do that on your own, just make sure you're not splashing gas all over yourself, which is what I did. But let that air out a little bit. I got the motor mounts off. As you can see there, I want to go underneath the truck and get these hard lines off for the transmission. Or not. It doesn't look like it's really in the way, and I really don't want more transmission fluid on the ground, so I just talked myself out of it. Great. So now that this is disconnected, I got to find out where I'm going to mount my load leveler chain hoist thing to my engine here. So thinking about trying to get a bolt on this front block, finding a bolt that'll thread there, and then I think there's something supposed to be on the back. We'll see. I'm going to do some digging. All right, we're at a point now where we're ready to hook up the chain hoist. Took the alternator off because I needed the cylinder head bolt right here to put this chain on. I wanted to go over here where I already had all the stuff off, but it was going to get into this intake and all this plastic. I just did not like the thought of that. On the back side, I'm on the top cylinder head bolt hole on the back side, which you're not gonna be able to see. I'll let you in on it when I pull the engine out. But got our chain hoist on here, hooked up to our pulley, and we're gonna start yanking on this thing and see if it comes up. And just be careful, just be slow while you're doing that so you don't break off any wires or anything that may happen to still be connected. So we'll get on to it. Number 2 is shortened chain. This is up in our face here. I'll show you. I bolted that to the back of the cylinder head. Ran my chain up to my leveler. gotta be careful that you're not pinching all your wires and stuff. It seems like there's plenty of slack there for that. And I bolted this into the front cylinder head here. I'm hoping that I don't have to take all this wiring harness off and then utilize the one that's in the 98 Ranger, but I have a sinking suspicion that I might have to. But it's all here if we need it. So we got the exhaust manifold bolts out. You see they're still smoking. Busted out the heat, got the gas axe on it. They zipped right out. I had to take the oxygen sensor off of that pipe there because I couldn't have got the impact gun on that bolt head. So the exhaust manifold bolts are finally out. I reckon we're gonna have to do the same thing on the other Ranger just to get the engine out of that thing. So it's looking like we're gonna have to unbolt this transmission. And then when we get the engine out of the other Ranger, we're gonna have to unbolt the transmission as well, because we're not gonna be able to get the transmission and the engine out of that engine bay with the radiator core support and everything intact. We probably could if we were able to crank this thing vertical enough, but we don't have enough height for that, so we're gonna have to do it the long way around. But it's looking like there's for the transmission bolts, there's a bolt there, right there, one right behind this wiring harness, which is gonna be a pain in the neck to get to in the other truck. One right there. So I'm gonna do a little update here. We got the transmission unbolted. I took the torque converter bolts off. Turns out I really didn't need to do that. The transmission just kind of slid right off. Or I should say the torque converter just slid right out of the transmission, so really didn't have to unbolt it. But I'd like to leave the torque converter in the other truck the best I can. Anyway, got the transmission off. It's sitting over there. What we're working on now is getting the truck moved out of the way. We're gonna try to spin the back end around and tuck it in underneath this fifth wheel trailer here, just to get it off the pad. We're gonna take this engine, get it onto a temporary stand, get it out of the way, and then pull Nemo in here, because we're gonna start working on disconnecting that engine and getting it pulled out. Well, if you don't have an engine stand, you can build yourself one. We got her bolted down, screwed down. I'm gonna have this sitting over here until we can get the other Ranger in here and start unbolting everything. So we got her bolted down in here. She's pretty sturdy. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. Appreciate you guys watching. That was actually several days worth of work of getting that engine pulled out of Dory. So stick around for episode 3. We're going to get Nemo pulled into the shop, start tearing down that engine and getting it out of the way, making room for the transplant from Dory. So stick around for that. Episode 3 coming up soon. Appreciate you guys watching very much. Hit that like switch on your way out. Hit that notification bell. Consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate it very much. Hope you guys are enjoying the content here. If so, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about the project. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. God bless.